Hi, it's Etharal here for EGN, and today we are kicking off a new series of Let's Plays. It's again Crusader Kings 2, however, today we are going to try out a new mod, so we are going to be trying out the Game of Thrones or Song of Fire and Ice for either fans of the book or TV shows respectively. Obviously the mod for that, where you can play in both Westeros and over the Narrow Sea. And so we are going to pick up a game here. We're going to be playing as a guy in the neck, although we are going to design our own character, so you know, make it a little bit more personal. It's something that's lacking in the Warhammer game, that the Warhammer mod even that I've been playing had to play sort of set characters and things, but in this we are actually able to make our own guy and customize them a little bit more, which is definitely always nice. So we are going to start by putting our character together. I'm going to try and keep him quite young. I'm going to sort of try and have things sort of focused as much as we can on getting this guy to create a dynasty, rather than actually have him, you know, just by himself really old but really good character. Obviously that's not really the best sort of way of doing it really. So we're going to have a look through here. One thing I will just note in the creative for this, is a nice touch obviously to have it. There are some nice, you know, attributes and things like that which are specific to the actual Song of Fire and Ice setting, which is always really nice. However, this is probably one of the most annoying features, that all of the actual family flags that you can choose from are all pre-designed, and they're all in one big lump of, well, as you can see, 824. Trying to flick through all of them to be able to pick one, if you know there's something that you're not liking the look of, you're going to be there a very long while. So we're going to pick this one here, mostly just because when I saw it I was kind of reminded of Boromir in Lord of the Rings with his horn, and obviously Ned Stark was also played by Sean Bean, so you know, I thought it'd be a nice sort of touch to that one. So we're going to go with that, and we're going to call them the Huntsman family. I think it's quite appropriate having a horn obviously on the family tree. I'm going to design this guy to hopefully get him all nice and sorted, to be able to, you know, lead his guys as best as he's able. Again, we are going to play more of a dynasty guy. Certainly for this character we may play some actual, you know, proper, you know, melee sort of commanders and things like that at a later stage, when obviously we've got a good few, you know, family members and things like that. Obviously we don't want to risk it just yet, as obviously last thing we'd want obviously is this guy to die and then the whole of the actual game to just kind of fall apart from that really. There's not much way to be able to continue on a Let's Play series if that was the case. So just having a look through these, as I mentioned, obviously there are some nice little ones which are actually, you know, the lore specific ones, you know, with the Valyrian swords and things like that, which you can obviously customize and things like that. I'm not going to get those for my family though. It's something that just don't want to do for the minute. We'll sort of take things as they are at the minute. We'll just mention that we are playing in the setting of the War of the Five Kings, so that is where Rob Stark is leading the North in open rebellion, and also as well there is, you know, the Ironborns and things like that all sort of going into rebellion, things like that. Joffrey is on the throne and things as well, but obviously we'll cover all that, you know, at sort of later date. When we get into it, you'll start to see how the situation is, obviously for anybody who's read the books, and also ones for the TV series. This is before obviously the TV started to diverge from the books, so you know, it's going to be something pretty familiar setting to start off with, although it is going to pretty quickly change for us and everything. So here we go, managed to pretty much got this guy more or less sorted out. You know, he's mid sort of 20s sort of thing. That's, you know, not too bad. That's something that we can sort of deal with. There's enough time to be able to get a couple of kids there and to be able to expand the family. So we shall start in with the actual game here, moving in, and obviously going to kick off with the war that is going on. And there we go, Joffrey has been declared as, shall we say, an illegitimate child of his father, but you'll obviously get into that, you know, as anybody who knows the series and that, all familiar with that one. So we're going to set up our council here. It is nice, they have added an extra couple of ones, changed around some of the names to obviously be lore appropriate with the maesters and the captains, and then added in a couple of extras to add some extra features in. So we're choosing to play here as a lord, so a sort of duke level lord. Just gives us a bit more to play with and more to do sort of from the beginning. I did try doing an earlier Let's Play series for this game as just a straight lord with one kingdom, but it didn't really seem to go very well. So we're going to set up here with actually trying to create a claim on this land here, and we'll see how that all goes. Obviously you can see the religion there of the old gods in the north is something that's obviously followed pretty much completely for us. So we shall get moving on with our, setting everything up here, just, assigning out our councillors to make sure that, everything's going to run as efficiently as possible in our capital. And here also as well you will see that we are actually going to start to set up our marrying our first wife, hopefully last wife, although they do sometimes die. This one is a pretty good one, not brilliant for stats, but should be enough to be able to work with. More the fact as well that she's strong, so that's something that trait may go on to our descendants things. So hopefully get that all set and we'll be able to actually start getting a actual family together, setting all the focuses ready to basically be able to increase our fertility as much as possible, and that way we can get a good few children out of this guy, and then hopefully should be able to actually expand the family quite quickly. Obviously with sons ideal, daughters are not as ideal, but something that we can still use. And obviously we can just do marriages where they come into our family rather than the other way around. And so we shall get this all set off, and you will also notice that there is already the war going on against Joffrey, and also as well against the Ironborns, who are obviously trying to raid the north and sort of use what they can to sort of get their situation in a better place by capitalizing, that's the word I was looking for, on the actual war that's going on. One thing we'll mention in this mod that is a little bit different, if anybody hasn't played this mod, is obviously case that the armies do tend to be quite a bit larger than in the vanilla game. They have increased the amount of units that you can get. It does cause quite bigger battles, which is definitely an interesting way to go. Although you can see there the Ironborn on their small islands have actually got an army which they've managed to bring over to us and have landed just west of our lands in sort of 12,000 there, and then another 5,500 over up in the north as well. So quite a large amount really. So we'll continue on here. You will see as well obviously there that we have the good news that our wife has become pregnant. So who knows, hopefully that might be a pretty quick turnaround for the Huntsman family, and they might actually be able to start getting some sons and heirs and things like that. Obviously here with having to do the actual marriage and doing all of the arrangements myself, it is a case that we are a little bit short on money now, so that's not great. We are starting off into a sort of deficit. Well, not in a deficit. Deficit is obviously where you're losing money. We are just owing money to people, things like probably the Iron Bank and people like that, I'd imagine. And so there we go, we have managed to get a heir, however not what we wanted, as it is a female heir. Hopefully though we've got a good wife with obviously the lustful trait, we've got it ourselves in that, so hopefully should be boosting up our fertilities and able to actually be able to get a son at some point, hopefully. Obviously if we do get a son, then that'll be pretty much perfect situation, and then we can sort of start taking it from there, as we will have a little bit of security. And obviously we will want to look at marrying him off to other actual dynasty heirs and things like that. It's one of the advantages of playing this where there's all men, is that obviously with them being mortal, they do die pretty quickly, so it's a case that we will actually be able to hopefully get some lands, not just by war but also as well by actually getting them through marriages and marrying up in the world, which is something which will be very, very useful for us to do, and will allow us to get quite a few sort of changing alliances and things like that regularly, rather than obviously the elves in the Warhammer one that I am playing, where everything is pretty much static. So you will see here that there we go, the War of the Five Kings has actually ended in this game. It's already diverging pretty quickly from the actual game, the actual story. This game is divulging from the story in the books and the TV series pretty quickly there, obviously, because Rob Stark is obviously still the Lord of the North, and obviously won't go into any spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen the Red Wedding on what actually happens in the actual canon story. So we'll keep going here, and you can see there that is where our ally, our father-in-law, is. So, you know, he is pretty far off, but, you know, we can still give a try of it. You know, he'll still at least be an ally. He might be able to bring some men to our aid if we ever were to get into a war, to be able to usurp some other land. And so there you go. We'll see, we do also as well have a mistress. Our guy is getting around a little bit there, and it is of course though allowing us to actually expand our, you know, influence, and hopefully our family as well, as obviously the more people that we do get, then the more that we're actually going to be able to, you know, the more children we get, the more that we're going to be able to expand the family and use them in a useful way. Very much similar to how obviously things did work in sort of medieval sort of times, that children were pretty much kind of just used as diplomatic tokens almost, to put it in sort of game terms. So we're here just trying to have a look around. Obviously in Flint's Finger we are, you know, just having a little bit of a trying to get some claims there. It doesn't seem to be really working, which is not ideal, but, you know, hopefully should work within a couple of years. And that you can see there that our wife is actually pregnant as well with a second child, so that is always good. And there we go, the wars for the Iron Throne have now subsided, and so we shall see how everything goes with this. And who knows, you know, this is definitely going to be a very, very different sort of game than the one was in the actual series. As I say, everything is diverging pretty quickly. So we are going to have a look here, as obviously we have suggested that the Lord Paramount, or the Warden of the North, has, you know, get us to assign out some of his titles, which he's let us do. And I think we are going to basically say we are the best one for claiming Dawn Forest. It's actually in the Duchy of Winterfell as well. So, you know, pretty nice one right in the centre of the north. Gives us a bit more money coming in, can raise up some more troops, and actually gives us something like a link to the actual father-in-law, who is obviously further up in the north as well. So we shall, you know, definitely like that land, and hopefully be able to expand it at some point later on. Obviously we will need to start saving up some money at some point soon, as we will need to actually get some of the improvements to our actual keeps and things like that. Would be something that we really do need to do sooner rather than later, to be able to start getting a bit more of force behind us. But we're just going to go out, sort of assign some of our actual land, like honorary titles and things, not landed titles even, as obviously we want to make sure that, you know, we're keeping everybody nice and happy. So we're going to try and give them to some of our vassals and things, see how they are. For the most part, our vassals are pretty happy. There's a couple that are, you know, not too thrilled with us, but, you know, could be a hell of a lot worse, really. That will obviously go up when we do manage to get a male heir, and as obviously we lose the short reign negatives. Obviously people don't really tend to like you when you first take over. You haven't proven yourself or anything like that. So that is something, though, that we will obviously deal with at sort of just steadily as we're going, as time goes on. Hopefully we should be able to get into a point where we can actually be able to get all of our vassals fully trusting us, which would definitely be a very useful thing. And so there you can see that we haven't unfortunately been able to, and so somebody would appear there, as it just popped up, to have fabricated a claim that basically we have been making plots against our Lord Paramount, or Warden of the North, Rob. Obviously that's not something that we've been doing, as you can see, so not quite sure where that came from, but oh well, we shall, you know, accept. We're not going to go into any factions anyway. It's not something we really had any work to do. And so there we go. We have also had a snowborn. So there we go. We have a daughter who is a snow. So we shall, you know, we'll acknowledge that she's ours. You know, we're not a complete sort of heartless sort of guy. However, we're not going to legitimize her or anything like that. Bring her into the Huntsman family. Not really something we're wanting to do, as basically she is obviously a woman. If, however, she was to be a male son, then that is something we would actually do. We would actually, you know, accept that. And so here we seem to have got an option to do one of the faceless men, as we're obviously going to try and, you know, do a little bit of a plot to actually get rid of this guy. Not for any reason more than anything. We just want to, you know, have a bit of a mess around and a bit of a go of the intrigue sort of stuff. It's not something that I've really been doing obviously very much lately, as you well know, and so we shall see how that goes. Obviously, if you do have any advice for this game, as obviously being mortal is very different sort of thing than the actual Warhammer one that I'm playing, please do feel free to leave a comment. Obviously be love to see them, and then I can obviously take any considerations into account to try and see whether we can actually expand our kingdom. Who knows, we may even have a look if we can get a bit of traction for this going, where we might even look at taking and becoming the Warden of the North ourselves, something that we would probably quite like if we were able to do it and be the first non-Stark in this alternate timeline to be considered the Northern Warden for the Iron Throne, which obviously is not something that has happened ever. As anybody well knows, it has always been a Stark who has claimed the title. And so, yeah, we're just sort of having a look around some of the options that we've got. There's obviously, like I mentioned here, obviously a lot more options. You can see, you know, what the small council is. You can obviously have a look for any dragons in the kingdom, have a look for sort of Valyrian weapons, and obviously be able to target people to be able to try and get those. Loads of other things that you can basically do in this game. So we're going to swap around though the Justicar, as the other one wasn't seeming to get as much choice. We were, you know, we've had them there for what, 4 or 5 years or so now, and no claims haven't been made, so that's not something that we're going to do. We are, however, going to keep as a culture to our Lord of the Northmen. It's something that we would consider ourselves to be, as actually being from the north. Technically, we are a slightly different culture, as we are the furthest south that you can get and still be in the north. And okay, what's that? Oh, and what should happen? But our King Joffrey the Black, as he's known, is actually been removed, and so now we have King Lyle the Iron. He is a Lannister, obviously, but you know, that is fine. He is actually still, regardless, a guy who is, you know, hopefully going to be a little bit better than his father, shall we say, who obviously married Marjorie, and they managed to have one son together. So that is the Lannister family's lineage continuing on the Iron Throne. But we're going to see how obviously this goes, and who knows, it might be a case that they may actually be a decent ruler for once, more like Tommen than actually Joffrey, hopefully, although I think it is going to stay. It's a bit of a stigma to him as to who his father was. His father was obviously not the most sane guy in the world, not something they really wanted after the Targaryens, obviously. You know, only, well, 2 kings following the Targaryens were not exactly the best in the world, to say the least, with Robert and then Joffrey. So we shall keep on going on with this. We're just trying to have a look around to see what it is we can actually do. We don't really seem to have much focus at the minute, I think, which is something that we will need to look at doing. And I think I will obviously advance this game a little bit though between now and the next session though, and try and get a bit of an idea of what we want to be targeting and how we want to go expanding. I think we are going to focus with expanding mainly in the north for the minute. We're not really too bothered about, you know, the southerners or anything like that, and we shall just sort of see how everything goes, basically. Obviously, we are still in a negative money. We owe money out. We definitely need to get that resolved as well. Try and get into a point where we are actually bringing in enough money to be able to actually have, you know, something where, you know, we can do something and it's not going to cost us all of our money or anything like that, basically. So this is going pretty well though. You know, we've managed to hold our throne for 6 years now, and, you know, well, not our throne, our lordship, and so I think it's safe to say that hopefully the Huntsman family, it will be able to continue. It's now got 2 actual generations of it now, so we shall see how our daughters go. Obviously we will, you know, train them up, make sure that they are going to be somebody who's going to be able to lead, as it's looking like it might be a case that we may not actually even be able to get an actual son at this case. Starting to, you know, I think it's safe to say that our guy is starting to wonder whether that's something that's maybe in the cards for him or anything like that there. But on the plus side, we are now actually at a case where we are actually not owing anybody any money. We're still completely pretty much bankrupt, but you know, that's not something that's too bad. We can do something with that. And then what should happen there, but a thing came up. Basically our wife was going to be a little bit more happy if we were going to buy some stuff, which we have done, and has put us again back into negatives. And so this time though, that one we're going to have to be a little bit tighter with the purse strings and decide, no, we're not going to take on the Marshall's ideas. And okay, there we go, at tournament. It is something we've been invited to a tournament there, I believe it was. So, yep, there we go. We shall go there to, you know, just to see our lord, be able to meet all the other lords and ladies from the north, you know, maybe be able to do a bit of the sort of the Games of Thrones style stuff with political intrigue. And so there we go. Our guy that we had been targeting has actually died anyway, and his son is now in prison. So unfortunately, it is very much a case that that whole plot was pretty much for nothing. Well, not quite nothing. It still gives us a little bit of a try to have a go of some of it, but it's something that obviously we're not able to do at the minute, and we'll probably have to have a look at changing some ideas around there a little bit. And there we go. As you can see, the Iron Throne has now reunified the North, and I think it's safe to say that we have managed to get peace under Lyle Lannister. He is somebody who is generally you know, seems to be an honourable king. So thank you very much for watching today. I've been Etharal here at EGN, and I shall see you next time.